And the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria has assured the Independent National Electoral Commission of the availability of cash for the smooth implementation of election logistics. The assurance is coming just as the National Security Advisor is pledging adequate security for INEC, its facilities, and Nigerians at large as the country inches closer to the election day. Arise News correspondent Chinaza Samuel has more.
In Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, cash is scarce. Automated teller machines and over-the-counter cash withdrawals are not fully functioning to capacity. Bank apps and USSD code are hanging. Individuals and businesses are badly affected. This is adding tension and anxiety as the country counts down to the general elections less than 3 weeks. On February 25th, 18 candidates will be contesting to replace President Muhammadu Buhari as Nigeria's next president. And on the 11th of March, governorship positions in 28 out of the 36 states will be up for grabs. There are now fears that this lack of cash might affect the smooth electioneering process, including hampering INEC logistics. This is a major reason for this visit by the INEC chairman to the Central Bank of Nigeria to explore better ways of partnership to resolve the issues. He explains how the scarcity of Naira notes posed a threat to the smooth running of election logistics, especially in areas of transportation.
Service providers are generally paid by means of electronic transfer to their accounts. However, there are equally critical areas such as transportation and human support services that have to be immediately remunerated, either partially or in full, before services are rendered. In addition, emergency situations may arise requiring immediate cash payments. Some of the critical service providers are unbanked.
On his part, the CBN governor assures that the Apex Bank remains committed to its support for the smooth conduct of elections in Nigeria. He promises to make cash available for the electoral body.
Would not allow itself either to be used or itself to central bank to be seen as an agent that frustrated a positive outcome of that election. So I sit here to give you that commitment that whatever you need, like you call, you have been responsible in the past anyway. It's not just about cash, you've done electronic payments before. And if in this case, after making your electronic payments, you require some money to pay transporters, in this case cash, the assurance I give to you is that we will make it available.
Also concerned about insecurity, the INEC chairman leads a delegation to the Office of the National Security Advisor. His mission is clear: security for all on election day.
We look forward to the comprehensive plan for the deployment of security personnel, including their various duty posts and contact details. This arrangement has been done in the past and has greatly facilitated rapid response to situations that may arise in the field, either on election day or during the collation of results.
For the National Security Advisor and heads of security agencies here, there is no cause for alarm.
The 2023 elections will go on in a climate devoid, bereft of rancor. The security agencies have done a lot in the last couple of months to put things in place.
I want to assure members of the public that the police, in collaboration with the defense and other security sector personnel, are fully prepared to conduct the 2023 general election in a free, fair, and credible manner.
I'd like to indeed pledge the commitment of members of the armed forces to the entire process.
With 17 days until the polls, INEC says it will leave no stone unturned in ensuring credible and acceptable polls. Chinaza Samuel, Arise News.
All right, we're now being joined by Arise analyst Dr. Sam Amadi and that Director of News and Politics Editor, Sambo, who is in our offsite studios. Gentlemen, very warm welcome to Newsnight. Samna, maybe I should start with you in the offsite studios. You know, we've seen the pockets, or would you still want to call it pockets of demonstrations, protests here, Governor El Rufai pleading with the people of Kaduna not to, you know, embark on that, and already saying the opposition has a hand in it, you know, just like the federal government through the Minister of Information has insinuated. What are your thoughts along all this protest and the cash crunch has been experienced in the country?
Good evening to our viewers. I'd like to start by saying that this cash crunch is affecting everyone, and I'm very sure even yourself, you'll have been affected by it individually. But the policy is actually one that has received mixed reactions, and it's beginning to take a route that is sort of an unfamiliar territory. And when I say unfamiliar territory, I would like to state clearly here that the economic objectives and monetary objectives actually by the government and of course the central bank that has set this aside eventually during the week saw it entering into some political angle, having a political coloration, and just as we just got into this week, we saw it beginning to have a legal coloration with some of the APC state governors, you know, beginning to take this to a particular perspective whereby they would want the courts to decide what exactly this is. And in the midst of it, it looks like the politics may affect the outcome of it more than the economic objectives and of course the monetary objectives are set out by the central bank. Now, I'm saying this because from the tone of some of the governors, from what they had said last week, and from some of the demonstrations we are seeing on the streets, it begins to wonder, it begins to make people to wonder if indeed the governors are also not trying to, through their utterances, to steer the emotions of citizens towards these policies. Because the same governors have also said that this policy is a laudable policy, while the central bank is trying to say the demonetization policy is meant to reduce the rate of cash in circulation from the 3.2 trillion that we already had in circulation, and the objectives is to actually drive it down to about 1 trillion naira in circulation, while 2/3 of the money is actually removed from circulation. But nonetheless, they had met with President Buhari, and President Buhari has said that they should give him 7 days. So why does it look like by resorting to the courts, they are resorting to self-help? And from the tone of what we heard El Rufai and other governors saying in the past 2 days, you will see as if there's a linkage between the protests and some utterances by the governors, and would want to ask the All Progressives Congress and its governors, including those in government, to ensure that this issue is managed so that it does not become chaotic. There are allegations that people want to use this to cause a crisis and lead to interim government. There is no reason why a smooth policy that should have started, will fail on the way. Because these governors, for example, when Nigerians were facing other bigger issues, like the issues of ASU, several students were at home for, 7 months. The governors did not see it the same way, to go to court, to go and get an injunction against the federal government for these students to go back, to school. Why is it that when it has to do with this policy, they are politicizing it and making it look like it's going to affect the elections? If the same federal government is beginning to give assurances and the president has not exhausted the 7 days, I think the governors should be careful so that it doesn't look like indeed what some people are also saying, that it's because of the issue of vote buying that they are being affected, that they will be deemed to be promoters of vote buying, which of course you and I know that if that happens, it will be contrary to the electoral practices that we are hoping to have in February 25th and March 11th.
Indeed, Somnia. Dr. Sam Amadi, I see you nodding to what Sumner is saying. I wonder if you think there's a correlation between what we've heard from the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, and the likes of El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, with the protests we're beginning to see. And again, a point that Sumner raised, the governors seem to be very keen at this cash policy compared to other national burning issues we've had in Nigeria affecting the masses as well.
Well, first, I think, I mean, there might be no direct causality, but there's some correlation. Essentially, like they say, the owl cried in the night and the child in the morning. So, I mean, you can put two and two together. Again, it's regrettable and very unfortunate that the governors took up the cudgel, as it were, to fight a monetary policy, macroeconomic policy, through very bare-knuckle political punches. So basically, try to force the president to intervene and reverse the central bank, and then went to court, like he said before the 7 days. Basically, they said, look, they basically want the Naira policy to stop, to allow for election. After election, then it can start. Now, the question is, what's the link between cash and election? Okay, very minimal. You want most of the polling units are supposed to be walking distance. That's the idea of the polling units. Nigeria has the tradition of shutting down business on election day, so you don't expect too much economic transaction. And so, if we can really get by with all the changes that the central bank is bringing, I'm rating the cash flow constraint. Why do we really need to focus so much on the cash, the policy and voting? Again, the NSA has assured. Of course, the government has assured, INEC has assured, on the day of movement, INEC requires basically the electoral officers to move around, and the sensitive workers and the staffers and others to move around. So I think that the key point here is, look, even if there are imperfections in the policy designed by the central bank, the whole notion of central banking in modern day, even right from the time of Thatcher, the British, all the former countries that didn't want independence of the central bank, had moved on to the independence of the central bank. And it involves two things that are critical. One is setting the goal, the priority, the macroeconomic priority, the monetary policy itself. And secondly is choice of instrument to deliver on it. So what I see is an attempt to beat down on the central bank and say, look, you must do what will help us win election. In fact, as a matter of fact, the APC's rhetoric and strategy, going to court, speaking around this policy must be ended, suggests that it thinks this policy is actually a policy designed to affect electoral outcome. Now, it is legitimate for policies to have political outcome. For example, if you remove the fuel subsidy today, some people who are opposed to it might not vote for you. Some people who want it may vote for you. So the fact that a policy has political outcome in terms of shaping public perception and public response to government does not amount to that policy being engineered or designed politically. So I think that what we are saying now is, at the last end of this government, that the same government and the same party are now fighting to undermine a central legacy policy of the government. And the whole issue is simple. If we do this, we might not win election. And so that suggests that winning election requires some level of, cash flow, which basically, why should so much cash be in circulation? Why should people be able to move millions in cash? I mean, what economic rationale, what prudential rationale justifies it's risky, you lose money, you could be attacked, it can lead to armed robbery. So what the heck about having so much cash for a party that is in government? This cashless policy has been there for over 10 years. And so now that we are making some strategic move towards it, why should the ruling party be fighting itself, going to court, addressing people, asking for protests, issuing bench warrant against the governor of Central Bank, threatening to jail him, and the Senate passing a very unconstitutional resolution that this policy should end on a particular day. So all this suggests that this is really political hard-hitting by maybe a party that feels that legitimately, when the party is 8 years in government, it likely loses election. when it's 8 years plus bad policy, it surely loses election. So anyway, cut it. This is not a good time for the APC.
All right, you're almost taking the wind off my sail there, but let's go back to Sumner in the Overflow studio. Sumner, would you say that the policies rolled out by the CBN governor, the new Naira notes, introduction of it, together with a gradual withdrawal, as Nigerians are witnessing gradually, of petroleum subsidy, are there policies that will help shape the mindset of Nigerians as they go into these elections? Why are the governors, stampeding Mr. President?
Thank you so much, Christian. Like I had said in one of my earlier analyses, the governors, especially within this set of 2015 and 2023, are actually losing their grip on power in terms of the influence politics we play in Nigeria. Under President Muhammadu Buhari's government, we've seen the powers of the governors, the influence of the governors, being whittled down, waning gradually, and some of them are feeling bad about this, that they are unable to influence a lot of policies. And coincidentally, the CBN governor seems, quote, to be one of them, because he's the 37th governor that we have. It's just that he's not the governor of his state. He's just the governor of the central bank. And there should have been more conversations, more outreach. But, the fear is that, since Emefiele had wanted to contest for the presidential ticket of the governing APC, in one way or the other, he will be dragged into the issues that are at stake. And so people are saying that because of that singular action that he had taken, that whatever he does should be stamped with a political eye. But that shouldn't be the case. And don't forget, President Buhari has to give his approval before this policy comes into play. As to whether it will have an impact in the election, I can tell you very clearly it will have an impact. A lot of us have been hearing President Muhammadu Buhari saying that he wants to leave a legacy of credible election. It's even surprising to a lot of us to hear several governors that were kicking against vote buying, now coming to say, no, this issue of, lack of cash, is bad and all of that. But prior to now, they were against the issue of vote buying. If you're against the issue of vote buying, and a lot of citizens have agreed that indeed, this policy will cut down the issues of vote buying in our elections, then why are they coming out to kick against the CBN policy? I think what should be happening now is that they should be looking for ways to support the central bank and support the president to see, especially in the 7 days that the president has asked. The president's 7-day request has not expired. Why are they rushing to the court to twist the president into taking a decision and then flip onto the other side politically? Some other opposition parties have gone to court to ask the president not to extend the date. So if you were President Buhari, what decision would you have taken? And some of them rushed to the presidential villa today to have a meeting. Why would President Buhari hold a meeting when there is a court order, 2 court orders that he has to obey? So it's good that President Buhari had to eventually stay away from that meeting, and the organs of state are beginning to meet. The Council of State will be meeting in a few days' time, I think on Friday, to take a final decision as to whether Nigeria is prepared for the elections or not. These particular issues will be laid before the Council of State. Since that Council of State comprised former heads of state and all of that, I think that the governors should be circumspect and allow President Buhari and his economic team to, just breathe quietly in the last few days that are left before the 7 days expires, and we'll see where it goes from there. It's a good policies and citizens will benefit from it, but we have to continue to support our government in the few days that are left.
Dr. Sam Amadi, we're completely out of time, but in 20 seconds, this is day 3 of President Muhammadu Buhari's day 7 he's asking for. If you could advise him, what would you tell him?
2 things. I say, look, Mr. President, stick to the policy. First, it's already the base. They have destroyed the macroeconomy outlook of this country, with all this political ping pong for a monetary policy that investors expect independent process by a regulator. Second, CBN and other stakeholders should work hard to ease the burden. But we should not go back on this deadline. We should not go back on the policy because you're making a bad case even worse.
Yes, a bad case getting worse. But Nigerians will persevere. The elections, barely 18 days to go. Assurances given that it will hold, cash crunch or no cash crunch. But CBN says there'll be plenty of money to conduct the elections. All right, that's how we'll leave it. Gentlemen, thanks so very much. Dr. Sam Amadi, a RISE analyst, and in our Overflow studios, Sambo, Director News and Politics Editor. Thank you.